Hi, I'm David D, the official voice of the best thriller books. I'm here to introduce the next episode of The Five Angry Men. Today, they discuss the first thriller they read. No one asked me, but the first thriller I read was The Cardinal of the Kremlin by Tom Clancy. Anyway, here are the boys.
Welcome back to Five Angry Men. Tonight's topic is first thriller book. Let me redo that again. I forgot to introduce you guys. Sorry. Thanks, Chris.
Derek.
And scene. Hi, welcome back to Five Angry Men. With me as usual, Chris Miller, Steve Netter, Stuart Aschenbrenner, and Todd Lasso. Tonight's topic that we're going to be discussing is what was the first thriller that you read that got you introduced and interested in the genre? Steve, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'm going to pull a Miller here and give you a couple of answers. There you go. There's a couple different ways I look at this, right? I think the first thriller that I ever read was those Choose Your Own Adventure books, which, I don't think is the point of this conversation. So I'm going to skip over them, but I used to read a ton of those, right? But if I go to real adult level thrillers, there's two that kind of come into my mind, late 80s, early 90s, when I was probably at that point, middle school to high school. One is Charm School, Nelson DeMille. Got me super hooked during the Cold War, right? On the US versus Russia and the Russians, infiltrating spies into the US. And the other one is The Firm by John Grisham, which was like the book, when it came out, that they turned into a movie with Tom Cruise, I believe it was. So those are the two that I read and got hooked. I read them multiple times, and the rest is history.
Awesome. All right, Miller, what about you?
All right, so I really only have one, which is surprising. By Vince Flynn. Same with Steve. I started with Hardy Boys when I was younger, the Goosebumps, Choose Your Own Adventures, and I kind of got into some different ones off that genre, when I was elementary to middle school, and then I quit reading in high school. Come post college, entering the Navy, I was on a deployment, and a buddy said, "Hey, have you ever read Vince Flynn?" And I was like, "Who's that?" And then he was like, "Try it out." He's like, "You'll enjoy it." Went home, pre-ordered Kill Shot. It showed up right before we went underway one night. And one of the scene that reminded me the most is when Rap breaks into the room, kills the dude, and stashes him in the car and has the car crushed at the junkyard. That had me hooked. I was like, "Oh, this dude is ruthless." And that carried me on. Right after that, I picked up Lines of Lucerne and started my adventure with Brad Thor and Scott Harvath, and it's been a fun ride ever since.
Nice.
All right, Stu, what about you?
So similar to everyone else, a few children's adventure thrillers. I remember reading Redwall by Brian Schock, I think it was, and it's basically mice who live in this castle and raccoons trying to break in and stuff like that. It was super popular. You guys were way older, but
was that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, I was like,
I think he's a English or French writer, but I mean, it was huge in the United States. I already have a copy, but then once I got older, I was working at a radio station where I would literally sit there and play commercials, and so I'd have a lot of downtime. And I don't know where I found Transfer of Power by Vince Flynn, but I remember opening, and I actually took a picture of that first page that says out of the respect for the Secret Service, some locations and layout of the White House has been changed or omitted. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this sounds super interesting." I took a picture and I actually posted it on my Instagram and still have it. The glare is just so bad. From October 20th of 2012 is when I started reading it. And then I think I read The Kill Artist by Daniel Silva, and then Lions of Lucerne by Brad Thor, and just kind of the dominoes fell from there. But yeah, Transfer of Power by Vince Flynn was the first one that really got me hooked.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, Mr. Lasso, what about you?
All right. So along with everyone else. It was Choose Your Own Adventure, Hardy Boys. There may have been some Nancy Drew in there. I love my mystery. I think my sister had that set. But
Sure.
really, the first thriller I remember just kind of picking up in middle school was, I think it was, shout out to Grandma Sue, Hunt for Red October. I think I was laying around their house and I was with grandparents and I was like, what is this? So I think that was the first one that I kind of read, but I wasn't really into the series genre at that point until a little bit later when I picked up, as Stu mentioned, The Kill Artist by Senor Silva, and never looked back. I read Silva, and then James Rollins was the other one I picked up real early and started as soon as that series kicked off. So those were the big ones that started my love affair with all things thriller.
Yeah. Well, like you guys, Hardy Boys, I still have probably 20 of them over here on the bookcase.
Yeah.
Are they in rock form, chiseled out, or are they?
Well, you know what? It's funny because I have a couple, probably 5 or 6, that were my dad's when he was a kid. So, yeah, I've got, so some grandkid's going to get them someday if I ever have any. Yeah, they're printed on vellum, right? So I think from there, it was like the Alistair MacLean, the Guns of Navarone and all those books. But I think the one that really got me into it was Robert Ludlum, Parsifal Mosaic. I remember reading that. My mom said, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. It's awesome. You'll love it. And I remember reading it and it was like, holy crap. It's all spy stuff, Cold War. It was great. And, I ran through the whole series, all his stuff. Yeah, I loved his stuff. And that got me hooked. And then it was Vince and, Daniel Silva and Brad Thor and all of them. So that was my start.
I think it's awesome that we start with a good series. Like almost all those are like phenomenal authors, if not all of them. And then you start picking up where you left off. Well, I started reading like 11, 12 years ago, and I didn't pick up Nelson DeMille till this year after Stu started saying I was a cross between John Corey and something else. And like reading that whole series, although there was only 7 books in the John Corey series, like catching up on that was phenomenal. Like even being a thriller fan already, man, that was, I wonder what it would be like to go back and read Harvath again or
Vince from the beginning. Yeah,
that would just pick
I
it
don't know
up.
what that other thing Stu said you were a cross of with John Corey was.
I'll let it go.
I don't remember anymore. Probably not something positive.
No, definitely someone picky, perhaps. Do you guys reread your series?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay, yeah. Until really the last few years, I would reread most of the series again before the new book came out. Particularly the Silva and Rollins ones. I would read all now 20 books throughout the year, but I don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah, I think the last one I did that with was Jack Carr. Because he's only got, when this last one came out, was his 4th one, so it was easy just to read the first 3 and go through those again. But you're right, though, when you get someone that's got like 20 books or like Ludlum who's got that or more, I mean it's hard, especially ones that come out like Brad Thor. If you started that one, you'd have to read that, and then you'd have to go through and do Vince, and you'd have to go through and do Silva. I mean, it's
Taylor, yeah.
Maybe I'll go back and read the one right before just to get that. It's kind of like when you're watching a season on some show on TV. You watch last season's last episode, so you're just caught up for the next year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, I'm always jealous of when I see someone like, I just finished my first Vince Flynn book, and I'm on to I just read American Assassin, and I'm starting Killshot. I'm like, I would love to reread these for the first time again, and just be able to, and not have any idea of what's going to happen, and then just be blindsided by everything.
Well, just get old like Derek and you forget them.
Funny, Todd.
Well, see, like Derek's saying, like, with Cars, you only got a few, but like I remember when True Believer came out, like it was only the 2nd book, so like I didn't have to reread the first one because I still remembered it. But like now, as you start adding more and more stories to what's going on and how he's changed and how the characters have changed and who's been killed, who hasn't, who's still on the loose, and what are his intentions, like you start to lose a lot of that. Like it's difficult to come through that, you know what I mean?
Yep. All right. Anybody got anything else? All right. So I think from next time, you got Stu, Steve, Todd, and Chris, and myself. I'm Derek. We'll see you guys next time on 5 Angry Men.
Have a good one.